Hello, everyone, and thank you for attending today's episode of Presidio C-Suite Perspectives, where we speak with technology leaders about management, leadership, culture, team building, and technology trends. This event is being recorded and will be posted on Presidio.com in our video library. If you have any further questions or requests following our conversation today, please contact us at inquiries@Presidio.com or visit our website. Joining us today will be Bipul Sinha, co-founder and chief executive officer at Rubrik. Bipul is an entrepreneur, an engineer, and a venture capitalist with over 20 years of experience building billion-dollar companies, including Rubrik, which he co-founded and leads as the CEO. In addition, Bipul is a co-founder and executive chairman of Conflura and a venture partner at Lightspeed. As a partner at Lightspeed, he focused on software, mobile, and the internet sectors. His investments included Nutanix, Pulse News, Chromium, and Pernix Data. Before Lightspeed, Bipul worked at Bloomberg Capital, where he was the founding investor and board member of Nutanix and Hootsuite. He also held engineering positions at Oracle Corporation, American Megatrends, and IBM. Bipul, thank you for joining us today. We're really excited to speak with you. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you, Bob, for the invitation. I'm really excited to be here.
Yeah, I mean, you guys have been a great partner with us with some amazing technology that customers are really finding tremendous use cases for, and we're going to want to talk about that as we go forward. But you've got a really interesting background. You've been a venture capitalist, right? You've been in banking. You obviously an entrepreneur, and you're an immigrant as well. And I think you were an engineer or an engineering background as well.
Yes.
So tell us about the path that led to CEO of Rubrik, if you will.
Absolutely. I came to America about 23 years ago as a software engineer. And I did software engineering for the first 10 years, initially in Atlanta at American Megatrends, and then later at Oracle for almost 8 years, where I built transaction processing and code kernel of the Oracle database. And that gave me the foundation in distributed systems and using Linux operating system and all the rest of it. But I wanted to look at businesses more holistically. So I decided to go to business school and study finance and jumped into venture capital via investment banking. And I did venture capital for several years. I was the first investor, first board member of Nutanix, and I sat on the board for almost 8 years till the company went public. And then I was also involved with a number of other companies like Hootsuite, Pernix Data, and others. And about 7 years ago, call it immigrants chutzpah, call it entrepreneur zeal, I wanted to kind of come out and really create an enduring institution that would kind of last longer than my own professional career. And with that vision, we got Rubrik started, and here we are. And thank you so much for our customers and great partners such as you, Bob, and Presidio, who have really helped us bring Rubrik into their relationship and gave us the trust that Rubrik needed to have a significant market presence.
Yeah, we've seen great traction with Rubrik and our enterprise clients. And again, we're going to talk about that in a little bit. Now, you and I believe we first met at the pre-IPO gathering up at the NASDAQ for Nutanix. So you mentioned Nutanix, you mentioned Hootsuite. How did you pick the winners? What were you looking for in your venture capital days that led you to believe, all right, this is a technology or this is a management team that I feel really good about?
So first and foremost, in venture capital, you need to have an excellent team. Without team, there's no business. So if you look at the Nutanix founding team, they were outstanding. I had worked with Dheeraj, the CEO of Nutanix at Oracle, as part of the same team. So I knew him, I knew his capabilities. And they had a radical idea. And in venture capital, you invest in radical ideas because when they turn out to be true, you have a massive outcome. So if you think about 2009, I have 3 guys, first-time entrepreneurs, walking into the office of the venture capital firm where I used to work and saying that they are going to merge server and storage in a single software. It was a crazy idea. My partners told me that this will never work. Who will buy this? We'll have religious fights between groups of people who manage these things separately. But the whole idea of simplicity, whole idea of automation, whole idea of magical user experience really was the foundation of Nutanix. And Dheeraj and team made it real. And here we are. They created this whole hyperconvergence industry, so to say, and the whole economy around it. So it's all about a radical ideas and a determined team to make it real.
Now, how much do those same criteria play in? Put yourself in the shoes of a CIO for a moment. They have a lot of folks that knock on their door, and we'll knock on their door and we'll introduce new technology. And sometimes our CIO clients are reluctant if the technology is too new or it's a brand new company. What are some, and so you've struggled with that, or you've overcame that with Rubrik, and certainly you saw that at Nutanix as well. What are some of the things that CIOs should think about when they're looking at a new company with a new technology? Now, obviously, the business value of the technology is going to be one of the first criteria. But what else do you believe made them comfortable about Rubrik?
Absolutely. Let me take a step back and give you the CIO's job of today. So if you go back 10, 15 years, CIO's job was around buying and managing applications and infrastructure. Fast forward today with SaaS and app and SaaS and cloud and all the rest of the things that are happening, CIO's job has evolved from owner and manager of the infrastructure and application into consumer of services. And as consumer of services, and as IT is becoming the most critical strategic vector for every business, CIO's job is front and center in the organization. Now the question is, if CIOs don't innovate, then the risk for the company goes up. Because if the technology is the core vector, then the technology has to move forward. So the CIOs are looking at newer technology and saying that, can this add to speed to market? Can this add to our own competitive positioning with respect to the market we are operating in? Because every single industry is prone to disruption. So the way we went to market, we actually made our CIO partners and customers realize that for them to have automation, orchestration, self-service, for them to have ransomware guaranteed recovery and an immutable backup system that will be immune to ransomware, their ability to leverage public cloud and create a hybrid cloud solution is very important. Because if you look at every boardroom, the discussions in the boardrooms are about how do we keep our business as an ongoing thing, which is cybersecurity and ransomware, and how do we make sure our applications are running all the time because our business depend upon it, otherwise business goes down. And finally, how do we keep CFO and CEO out of jail? By that you mean compliance and governance on data and regulations. And CIOs sit in the center of all three. And so the CIO's job is more important than ever, and more than ever, they're looking at the startups to really help them leapfrog their competition.
Yeah. So we look at, that's a great answer. And we look at the CIO's job as evolving in a very similar way as you described it. They're certainly consumers, but we utilize a concept which, coming from the investment banking world, but probably familiar. We believe that they're more portfolio managers now, and they've got these valuable assets, which are their workloads or their data sets. And the return metrics are going to be things like compliance and security and performance and agility and strategic value to the business and a host of other things. And as data sets and or workloads mature, those return metrics may differ. They may change, right? It may be something that's a little bit less strategic now than it was before. There may be more security and compliance that has to be tied to it. Users may be utilizing it in a different way. And so, the way we look at it, and the way that a lot of our clients look at it, is they are managing that entire portfolio to get the best return possible across a variety of metrics for their business and for their shareholders. And that goes on, and what goes along with that is, well, where am I going to invest? In my portfolio, what things am I going to invest in are going to enhance my overall portfolio return? So it's very similar to what you've spoken about. So the consumers and portfolio managers in our minds, but I think it's the same concept.
Absolutely. I mean, if you look at the CIO's job today, as you said, it's a portfolio management of technology, and ultimate goal is to reduce risk for the business. And in their quest to reduce risk for the business, and as all the workloads also manual processes within the enterprise is getting digitized. And as the professional and personal information is sitting in these applications, the complexity of management of data is rapidly growing. The complexity of data fragmentation, application fragmentation caused by SaaS and cloud infrastructure is really making their job even more complex. So in my mind, there is technology providers, solution providers such as Rubrik is critical in their scheme of things. But what is even more critical is what you do, Bob, because given that complexity of technology choices, given that they have to have risk reduction as the core metric, they need trusted advisors who can help them navigate through risk and reward of different options. And as the complexity of all these services that they could consume increases, they more than ever they need trusted advisors who understand their business, who understand their infrastructure and systems and applications, and help them consume these services and increase their portfolio in a way that reduces risk and in effect creates more value for the business.
Yeah, I think you're right. And that's certainly our partnership with you is to enhance one of those key metrics, which is risk and compliance as well for our clients. And then, as I mentioned, those other metrics where we help with optimizing costs, improving agility, making sure there's strategic value and or revenue generating capabilities for the business and performance, et cetera. So, as a trusted advisor, you're right. We look at the entire return metric set, if you will, for the CIO. Now, you guys have been disrupting the data management market for 6 years, right? Since you guys started. What are your goals over the next couple of years?
Look, we want to build the next 30, 40, 50-year company. And we are on this journey to really be the best, not only the best in class backup and recovery platform, but the best in class data management platform for the business, whether they need data for application recovery, whether they need data for data security and data security recovery, for cybersecurity and other things, whether they need data for compliance and governance, whether they need data for data mobility across cloud. So you will see us enhance our data management capabilities and all the applications that we are building on backup data in a fast and furious manner in the next several years. Our goal is we want to be the world's data management platform. Just like you call an API to get compute, whether it's on data center or in the cloud, and you run your applications, Rubrik's goal is to be the API for data. You need data for compliance, governance, security, application recovery, or mobility. Rubrik is the one-stop shop.
So when you think about the client base, those clients that have partnered with Rubrik and are consuming and utilizing your technology, when they look back after a few months, what are the biggest changes and the biggest returns or values that they've seen in addition to risk mitigation?
So when we sell our product, we always do a TCO ROI on a hard cost. And in typical enterprise scenario, we save, call it from 20% to 50% in hard cost saving. But what is even more exciting is that 6 or 9 months down the line, when we meet our customer or CIOs over coffee or just have a discussion, what they say is that the one thing that they were super positively surprised was that 80 to 90% reduction in amount of calories invested to manage the systems. So if you look at what they were doing before with like so many people and so many hours spent managing the backup recovery platform and all the data management capabilities, there's a 90% reduction of that. And what that does is every IT department is constrained. Every CIO is constrained because they're getting more and more things thrown at them and they have less and less time. So if they can actually have their people work on more strategic things, such as automation of the infrastructure, looking at the cloud initiatives, or making sure that time to market for newer applications, whether it's mobile or consumer-oriented stuff, if they can accelerate, then their business actually becomes better. So they're looking at us saying that not only you guys are saving hard cost for us, but you are freeing up valuable resources within IT department so that they can do actually more strategic stuff. And that's what the goal of Rubrik was. Our goal was, if you can use Facebook, you should be able to use Rubrik at the largest possible infrastructure. And we are singularly focused on that.
I was speaking with a CIO a few months ago about their journey and their transition to a hybrid cloud model, which is where virtually all of our clients ultimately want to get to, and some were further along than others when this crisis hit. And those ones that were further along had a much easier time adapting and being really productive in a work from home environment. But what the CIO was talking about was exactly the themes that you touched on. There is an incredible acceleration in terms of the pace that they have to move at and the technological advancements that they can and should be taking advantage of that they hadn't seen before. There's an incredible convergence across what used to be siloed infrastructure stacks, right? And so they have to care for that. There is, as always, constraints on their OpEx, and that leads to constraints upon their headcount and the desire to have folks work on more strategic opportunities rather than more maintenance-like opportunities. This CIO was saying that they've been in the business for 30 years. They've seen a lot of transitions, but this was the most complex transition they've ever seen. And they know that when they get to the other side of it, he said, even if I get to 80% of where I think I can go in a hybrid cloud model, there's still going to be so much value to the business that we've got to continue investment, we've got to continue to move ahead. But there are so many plates spinning that were not spinning in the past, and I've got to keep them all in balance. And I think that's what Presidio does, is help them do that. That's what partners like you do that help them do that as well. And so when you think about the migration to hybrid cloud, Rubrik does provide backup and recovery in an on-prem world and obviously in a public cloud world. When you're engaged with clients that are operating or beginning to operate a hybrid cloud, what are the things that you're hearing from them in terms of what their challenges are?
See, the biggest challenge in a hybrid cloud environment is the application and tool fragmentation, because you have one set of tools that you are used to in your data center. And as soon as you go to the cloud, you realize that backup recovery and security is a shared responsibility in the cloud. Cloud doesn't magically solve your application availability or security problems. So how do you create a uniform set of tools across your data center and in the cloud so that you have a single way to manage, control, and bring visibility into all your applications, data, and user? That is the number one challenge, because just because your applications are running in the cloud, your compliance, your audit, how you run your business doesn't go away. And that has been the core focus for a lot of CIOs in the hybrid cloud world. And what has made this even more complex is COVID. Because what COVID has done is that their 3-4 year plan, it has compressed them into the 4-quarter plan. And that compression of 4 years to 4 quarter has put in a lot of pressure in the IT department. And it is both an opportunity and a challenge for them. Opportunity is because they are the focus of the company and they have the authority to make big decisions, which otherwise in a normal time is hard to do. Challenge is that they have to do it in a very compressed time frame. So as hard COVID has been in terms of a lot of unemployment and disruption and being at home, look, the loss of life is just tremendous. In our country, we had lost a lot of people. But from the IT perspective, on the business side, this is a tremendous opportunity, because that acceleration actually separates wheat from chaff. If you can accelerate and get there faster, you have a fundamental advantage over your competition, and you can introduce product and services faster and better. So just like any disruption is opportunity, COVID is an opportunity for every business to disrupt their market share, because in normal time, increasing market share is super hard. But in these times, when everybody is scrambling to figure out the next, if you can figure the next faster, you can actually take over your competition.
Yeah, I think it's a great opportunity. And those clients that are making those investments and accelerating their move to hybrid cloud today, those are the ones that are going to accelerate out of COVID, and hopefully we're seeing that a bit of an upturn now with the opening, and we don't see a major reoccurrence of the virus as we move into the fall. I think you'll begin to see that, and you're right. You'll see folks continue to separate. Now you tied COVID and challenges on the technology side. Our CIOs also will have those challenges on the management side as well, that everybody experienced when everybody suddenly went home. Everybody suddenly went mobile, and they suddenly started working from home. What were some of the insights that you learned in your experience with Rubrik in how to optimize that changing work environment? Because I don't think any of us believe that we're going to go completely back to the old environment. So there's going to be a lot of elements of what we've experienced in COVID-19 that we're going to have to understand how to continue to manage, optimize, motivate, et cetera. So what are some of the things that you learned at Rubrik as you moved into this process?
I mean, for us, it was pretty sudden move. I remember on March 7th, I heard that one of the persons who works at Rubrik, their partner was tested positive, and we decided to shut the whole office down starting Monday, the 9th March. And so over a weekend, we flipped almost like 1,600 employees of Rubrik in digital. Everybody on Zoom, everything on Zoom. And so the transformation, the digital transformation, so to say, of Rubrik happened very rapidly. Not to mention, in beginning of May was our first user conference, Rubrik Forward. And we had to make a decision pretty quickly that we are going to cancel the physical event and transform into a digital event. And we decided to announce Rubrik Forward Digital. And within a span of 8 weeks, we completely created a new set of content and recordings and coordination across all the guests and keynote speakers. And we had almost 9,000 people register for our event. So the thing is that digital transformation was forced upon us, and our IT team and the whole company rose up to that occasion. But these kind of transitions are not easy because you have COVID. Because of COVID, folks are at home, they have kids and families and homeschooling, not to mention to be in front of this screen and everything else that is going around in the house. These are difficult challenges. So as leaders, we have to focus on not just getting the work done, but also bringing people along in the journey. So things around periodic, like more frequent communication, periodic check-ins, making sure that we don't let the barrier of digital not connect with to us to people. So we actually had a very kind of regimented, so to say, strategy of communication, the strategy of engaging with people. And not to mention, if you look at lately, because of the social unrest and situation, it also creates another level of churn when you are at home and then you are thinking about all the rest of it that is going on. So as leaders, we have to really take people along in the journey, let people have freedom to participate in things that they want to participate, and a constant, clear communication of where this path leads us to. So the goal is tell people how things are, define an 9 to 12 months outcome, and then give them an update of how that is going.
Yeah. And I think what we've seen is those fears and concerns of the employee base, they have changed a bit over time. Certainly everybody was concerned about, is my job safe? Then am my family going to remain healthy? And then how am I going to do my job? Or how am I going to be able to stay in contact with my customers? Is this going to work? So you saw all those ranges. And now what we've been hearing from some folks is, well, how can I distinguish myself? How do I make sure that people know what I'm doing? Because I want to advance in the company, I want to advance my career. And when we're in an office, I'll see my managers, I'll see their peers, I'll see executive team, and that gives me an opportunity to create a little bit more of a network. How do I create a network now in this type of environment? I think it's a lot harder for folks to figure out how to do that.
See, the thing is that the positive side of COVID and digital forced digital transformation, if I can say that, is really a great equalizer. Because look at our business, right? More than half of our employee base are outside of the headquarters because they're all over America, North America, Europe, Asia. And the proximity of HQ with the digital and with the technology is kind of gone. They can an employee in headquarter can talk to me as easily as somebody sitting in Singapore. So the distance barrier in some way has been broken. So in my mind, this transformation, as hard as it is for many people, for all of us, it is going to fundamentally transform how we perceive headquarter, how we perceive proximity. Is physical proximity a determinant of my career growth? Is if I'm going to see somebody on a daily basis in hallway, what does that mean for the prospects and my ability to advance my career? All of these things have to be refactored. In some ways, folks are even talking about what does even headquarter mean? This will actually be great for our country because it unlocks the potential of folks who are not in these big city centers. So if you think about somebody living in Kansas City, a great technologist, a great coder, they will have exact same opportunities as somebody sitting in San Francisco. So in my mind, this transformation will be great for our country. This transformation will be great for labor market. This transformation will diffuse technology in areas where it has not gone. And it will actually be helpful in terms of making sure that the city center concentration in terms of rent and living spaces constraints that we have, it could reduce.
I was talking with another CEO earlier in the week, and they were talking about the same thing in terms that, the grid of people it's a great equalizer. It eliminates the advantage that the group in one room had over the folks who were coming in remotely. The folks, he finds now that people can participate on a more equal basis, and that also people need to listen more because you can't talk over people in the video in video conferencing. Right. And so he says, listen, this is a great equalizer. This will help drive a greater diversity of thought. It'll help drive a greater diversity within our organization, and it gives everybody more opportunity, regardless of where their location is. So I think some tremendous benefits. Now you're touching on a lot of things that relate to culture, and as somebody who started a business, you had the opportunity to probably think really hard about what your leadership principles were going to be at Rubrik and what type of culture you wanted to build. But tell us about that process when you were putting together your leadership principles and your culture. What was it you were looking for?
So this is a great question, and this is a journey that for me it was very important. Since we wanted to be an enduring institution, the foundation of the enduring institution has to be built in a very solid way, because if you don't have that foundation, you cannot build a long-term company. So the 4 founders of Rubrik, we got together before we hired our first employee and said that, defined a cultural value. Like, what does Rubrik as a culture means? And we defined that as we call rivet, R-I-V-E-T. So just like your jeans pant is held together by rivet, we said fabric of Rubrik is held together by rivet. R of the rivet is relentless, I of the rivet is integrity, V of the rivet is velocity, E of the rivet is excellence, and T of the rivet is transparency. So the Rubrik's foundation is laid on the rivet principles. And then in terms of the management principle, we enhanced rivet and across, again, these vectors, but the core of the management principle is hire and develop the best talent, model the behavior that you like to see in others, and be completely transparent and empower people. So if people are not challenging you in meetings, it means that you're not transparent enough. To break the information control, because all large organizations have people derive power by controlling the information, and we said we are going to completely break the information barrier. We said, what is the most sacred in a company? This board meeting. We said we'll make the board meeting open. And then so that everybody can point to the board meeting saying that if the board meeting is open, why my manager, why can't you tell me what is going on? So it's about like the foundation of transparency, candor, challenging each other. And these are not an easy thing to do, because as a founder, CEO, you have a healthy amount of ego. And when you say something and people challenge you, you have to listen to all voices, and you have to accept the right answer. So what is very interesting is, by putting these principles out there, you are making a social contract that not only people will abide by it, but you as the leader of the organization has to also be abide by it. So when your ego starts to react, then you know that there is a social contract,
Right.
and it's kind of like a self-correcting system.
So as you grow larger, what we found is the difficulty is that it seems harder for people to give you that direct, honest feedback, right? To disagree with you, because you get so many layers that things get filtered through. How do you keep yourself in touch with, what you believe is you really need to know from the business? How do you move away the filters so that you can hear the real deal?
So the way we operate is, the executive team of Rubrik is what operates the company, and I'm part of the executive team. And we keep repeating in the executive team that let's challenge each other and let's best idea come. And folks that are part of the executive team, they propagate this culture down. So when you break the barrier in the executive team, and when you are in the +1, +2 meetings, and when people are challenging you and you are accepting the right answers, it gives people that confidence. But in spite of all of that, as a CEO, you have to know the ground realities. So you identify some of the early people who knew you before the Rubrik became Rubrik. So they have no barrier in terms of like giving you the right feedback. So you go back to them and ask them like, where am I doing wrong? See, the most important thing is that as leaders, we live in a lot of uncertainty. And for psychological safety, we sometimes have this natural tendency to seek positive affirmation. But one of the most important things that we have to know is the negative feedback, because that's the counterbalance to this mental framework that you're working on, so that you are disrupting yourself. So you need to identify folks who are actually giving you negative feedback to counterbalance your own psychological safety. And the combination of that, how are you vulnerable, and driving a consistent, clear vision while other people are giving you feedback, gives you that balance.
Yeah, it's so true. You like to think that you're making decisions based upon data. You want to be data driven. But if you're not getting that diversity of opinion or diversity of thought or diverse data pool, you're not making that decision based upon all the available data. And very much like you guys, we like to challenge. We like to have spirited debates. Always respectful, but you want to get all the viewpoints on the table and understand what's going to be right for the business, what's going to be right for our clients, what's going to be right for our employees, and make the decision based upon that. And I think that you talked a little bit about the social unrest that we've seen around diversity and inclusion, and certainly driven by the events in Minnesota with George Floyd. And we think back, have we really created as a diverse environment as we like? So we do have a real diverse set of opinions. And we feel that we could do a whole lot better. And there's a number of things that we're doing that we've spoken to our employees about to help foster and drive that. But you realize through that lens, we thought we had a real diverse set of viewpoints, but perhaps we didn't. So that's something that we're rethinking as well, to make sure that we are truly getting all the data you need to make the right decisions for our employees, for our customers, and for the business overall. Have you guys made any changes based upon the recent events in our country?
Absolutely. So this is an area. Again, what happens is that in psychology, there is a term called paradoxical intention. So what happens is that when you think about something and so many other things comes about, you actually revert. And so what has happened is that if you think about our Black community and their challenges, when some of these incidents happens, it is at our top of mind. And then everyday business and all the struggle and work, there are challenges that you face and you overcome them, this kind of goes away. So one of the discussion that we had internally was, how do we keep this as like a thing that we are constantly working on? And our chief legal officer came up with two interesting ideas. So one thing he started kind of framing was that how do we make sure that when we have the pipeline of candidates that we interview, how do we insert diversity there? And we have been focused on gender diversity. We are going to focus on racial diversity. And so that the pipeline has a starting point of racial diversity, we'll always pick the top candidate, but there are a lot of top candidates in the racial diverse pool. How do we kind of bring them to the bottom of the funnel? So that's number one. And then the second thing that we are in active kind of discussion and implementation is about how do we create the candidate pool itself. So Rubrik hires a lot of folks out of university, out of in their first job. How do we insert the racial diversity there so that they have the opportunity to start to grow? I mean, my stated goal is that Rubrik life is longer than my professional career. And I want folks joining Rubrik or working in Rubrik to really gun for my job. And if we get talented, racially diverse pool, that will give Rubrik opportunity to become the next 50-year company.
Yeah. You hear a lot, well, I've hired the best person. And you touched on it. When we peel back the onion, it's the best person from the pool that you saw. And so, how wide and diverse is that pool? And like you, we're focusing very heavily on that now to make sure that pool is wider and much more diverse. And we're going to have leaders come out of that group that are going to add a lot to the business. And like you guys, we're looking further down the road too. We've got a Presidio Future Built Scholarship that we've rolled out with 15 of our higher education clients, where we are taking scholarships in the STEM fields for diverse students. And we're offering part-time job employment while they're in school and internships while they're in school to start building that next level into the business. Because there are things you can do right now, and there are things that we as an industry need to be doing for the future. Those benefits may be seen to a great extent after you and I are retired, yep. But the ability to create greater economic opportunity, which comes from greater educational opportunity for diverse and minority students, that's going to be the equalizer, or one of the equalizers down the road. And it's great that we're doing things today and that we're looking at things for the future as well. So it's good to see the way the technology is responding.
I mean, this is a critical issue, and this has to be a sustained effort in the next 20, 30 years. I mean, I've had discussion in venture capital. I spent many years in venture capital, but in terms of the number of underrepresented minority coming into the venture capital office and presenting a business plan and thinking about building a company, is very minuscule. It's not even close to. It doesn't represent our society and the diversity of our society, and that is it's a much used, abused term like digital divide. That's a real thing, because unless we have people. Our Black community we can have the tool to really dream big, have the ability to overcome the challenges that they have in terms of educational challenges, then getting into like dreaming about creating businesses, dreaming about going into venture capital's office and getting funded. Even a number of venture capitalists who come from that community to help the company. So all the positive effect of job creation opportunity on that front. And then if you look at the tech industry and how we can like create candidate pool, pick folks from the candidate pool, and really, so it's going to be a 360-degree effort around like really sustained effort to bring folks look, I mean, technology is going to be the economic engine for America and for the world for next 100 years, unless something else comes along or more. How do we bring along our community on this path and create prosperity for all of them? It's like shared prosperity.
Do you think there are any things that you learned as an immigrant entrepreneur here in the U.S. that diverse and minority students and young workers can take from to help their careers?
Absolutely. I mean, look, we have our own challenges in America, but America is a magical place. Someone like myself coming from India, and I landed here when I was 23 years old and have the opportunity to do things that I could do here, and here sitting in front of you and having this discussion is nothing sort of magical. And what America gives is a framework on which you can actually start building. But to be able to leverage the framework, you need to have tools and dream and hope. And what we need to do is for the underrepresented community, we need to inject that dream, that hope, that you can dream big and really come out and take the world by storm and really give expression to your inner thoughts. And there are people who can help you kind of shape those thinking, because you don't know whether your thinking are right or wrong. So it's about mentorship, it's about opportunity, it's about like a community that helps you kind of give you feedback and helps you on this journey. So for our Black community, we need to create that framework so that they can go on this journey. We need to kind of give them the tools, the hope, the dream, making sure that they are able to express themselves, because they are amazingly talented people, but they are not able to express themselves because there is no community safe space where their ideas are encouraged.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, as you point out, you create a better business and a better opportunity for everybody.
It's a fact. It's a fact that diversity creates better business and long-lasting business. A fact. It's not a thesis.
Well, listen, you've been terrific today, Bipul. I really appreciate the time. I think it's really insightful for our CIOs. It's really insightful for the young people who'll be watching this. It's been a great partnership, and we've got a long road ahead of us to keep driving some really great solutions for our clients. So I want to thank you for the time and thank you for the partnership.
I appreciate the time, and Bob, and really appreciate the partnership. I think Presidio and Rubrik together will go do big things and really shake the marketplace.
I like that. I like that a lot. Well, thanks. Thanks, Bipul. I'll see you again, hopefully in person real soon.
Absolutely. Thanks, Bob.
I want to thank Bipul for joining us today and sharing his insights in how he picks technology winners, how he's building Rubrik, and what it's like to be an immigrant and an entrepreneur here in the United States. We're making some changes to our C-Suite series. Our C-Suite Perspective series will move to a monthly schedule, and we'll be back again in July with another industry leader. In the meantime, we are introducing a new series about the future of work, where we speak with technology and business experts about the changes we can expect and the changes we need to adapt to as it relates to how companies will operate and the working environments that we need to create to ensure success in the future. We've learned a lot in the last few months about how people can work productively in a much different environment from what we believed was the right environment only 5 months ago. So check back on Presidio.com for an upcoming schedule on Presidio's Future of Work series. Have a great day, everyone.